He's Nick Wright, First Things First co-host on Fox Sports 1, and he joins us on the program. Where do you want to start?
Well, you listen, let's deal with the elephant in the room. You're very, very mad at me when I think once you get the full context, you'll be very, very proud of me.
Okay.
I think you will say, this is why I have taken young Nick Wright under my wing.
Okay.
Because this is the type of broadcaster and friend he is. But would you like to set it up? Would you like to get the context?
Okay. So I won the Marconi Award, which is the biggest award you can win. It's for the national radio host. And Nick was at the ceremony, was going to go up and accept it. And, there was a connection there because we put in a clip from an interview that we did with Nick. So he was part of the tape that we submitted. And I thought, you know what? Let me thank him. I got a miniature Marconi, and I sent it to him, surprised him to say thank you. Next thing I know, I get an email, or Fritzy does. He goes, Nick gave away your Marconi. It was on a radio interview in Boston, and he gave it away. And then I text Nick, and I said, I gave it to you as a gift, a thank you. You gave it away as a joke. I hope you gave away the watch that I gave you as well.
Okay. Well, first of all, I'd never give the watch away. Sell it, maybe, but never give it away.
Okay.
But you have a few of the. So I was at the Marconis with Danny Parkins, who hosts Afternoons on the Score in Chicago. Okay. That's important context.
Okay.
I wasn't on a radio interview in Boston. I was on Danny's radio station in Chicago when this came up. Okay. So now this is where I think, so he was nominated. He didn't win because Greg Hill from Boston won. I don't know what they submitted. That's outrageous, but doesn't matter.
Okay.
So this is where I think you will say, you know what, Nick? It was a good move.
Okay.
So Danny, about a month ago, I don't know if you'll like me saying this, but you know what? We're all friends here. Was in some contract negotiations. And you know how those radio negotiations can at times get contentious. And he never wanted to leave Chicago. He was never planning on leaving Chicago. But I told him, hey, we got to, you need as much leverage as possible. So some big boys come out and try to hire you. Maybe we can get the dollars up or something. So I was like, you'll probably have like a Zoom interview at some point with someone. You already have on the resume nominated for a Marconi, but you can't put on it you want it. But what if in the background there is a Marconi statue and they're like, oh, he just didn't update the resume. He won a Marconi. They're not going to Google it. I was like, so you just have that there until this contract stuff gets taken care of and then send it back to me. So that's what he's doing. And, you can hear him on the Score in Chicago. You can hear him on First and Pod, a great podcast he does with Andrew Filipponi. He's a great radio host who now he's got 2 small children. Just bought a house in Chicago. He's got a great new contract. So that is what we call paying it forward. You did something nice for me. I did something nice for him. Now it comes back to me. Probably shows up on eBay in a few months.
But you didn't convey that as a radio host, as a journalist. You didn't convey the story accurately to Fritzy. Therefore, Fritzy conveyed it to me.
Well, so listen, I didn't convey anything to Fritzy. I sent Fritzy a link. Now, if you're saying that the folks who are currently on the sports media beat, that maybe they need to dust up on some journalism classes, that's for you to say. All I did was send Fritzy a link to a story that had been written. I said, show this to Dan. I didn't vouch for it. I didn't do any of those things. And let me tell the audience something else. Dan sends texts with odd punctuation and weird emojis. And I can never tell, is this because he's old and confused, or is he sad? And I got this text the other morning, and I'm like, I think I hurt my friend's feelings. And so I was really anxious about this.
Well, I did send, when he goes, are you mad, or are you jealous? Are you upset at me? My insides are turning upside down.
I was worried.
And then I go, even the clown has tears, Nick.
That's what he wrote. He said even the clown has tears. I'm like, what does that mean?
And then I don't even know. I saw Fritzy today, and I go, I got him. And he goes, what?
You got me.
And I told him, I said, oh, yeah, he's a mess now. Because I didn't respond
to him. You didn't respond. He just left me me on red.
I did.
I'm like, oh no.
I did. I did.
And this all, let me give one more piece of context, then we can talk football and basketball and everything.
Okay.
You had 6 hours prior asked if I wanted to go to dinner.
Yes.
And you know what? I'll tell you this because you'll like it. But I'm going to dinner with Coach Eric Mangini and his wife tonight, so I couldn't. My wife's coming with us, a little double date. I said to my wife, I was like, Dan invited me to dinner, but I can't because we have Mangini's. Do you know what my wife said? My wife, who we don't have to go down that road again. She said, I'll go with him.
Oh, boy.
I said, you got to be kidding me. I'm going to break that Marconi in half.
Dude, I am playing the long game with your wife. I'm just,
obviously.
I'm just letting you know. I know. Yeah, she loves love just like I do.
She loves love. Okay.
All right. He's Nick Wright. He's our good buddy from Fox Sports 1. We're all good. We're all good.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, we are. We are good. But man, I wanted you to grind over this big time.
I was.
Okay.
I was grinding.
Why is Mahomes being disrespected in your mind?
Well, people evidently want to treat the best quarterback in the world title like it's the heavyweight championship crown. Like if you lose to a guy, he just gets it. And I had to listen all year long about how it's Mahomes, Allen Mahomes. Who knows? This guy might be better. And it was nonsense. Total, complete nonsense. And I was called a hater for saying Josh Allen isn't even the second best quarterback in the world. Joe Burrow is. And everyone thought the Bills were going to roll the Bengals, except for me, when I correctly predicted the Bills season for the third year in a row. And then the moment the Bills lose, now it's Mahomes, Burrow, Mahomes. Who knows? I guess we'll see if so that's the first reason it's nonsense. Second reason nonsense, this, Dan. I want to give America a very quick lesson of what Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs has meant. His first year in the playoffs. 24 fourth quarter points and 3 fourth quarter comebacks against Bill Belichick's defense, including a drive in less than 30 seconds of forced overtime. They don't get the coin flip. They lose. They didn't, like Buffalo, go crying to the commissioner, change the rules, took their medicine. The next year, 3 double-digit comebacks, including 21 points in less than 6 minutes of the fourth quarter of the Super Bowl against the league's best defense. Then next year, back in the Super Bowl and has the Tampa Bay Bucks, I tweeted out the video of it, in awe on the sideline as he's throwing passes horizontal to the ground, bouncing off guys' face masks. The next year in the playoffs was last year. They scored 42, 42, 21 in the first half, and then Mahomes had his version of LeBron's 2011 finals. Short-circuited for a half of football, lost him the game. And then this year, he has a damn flu game, except it's a sprained ankle game. People are like, I don't know. If Joe Burrow beats him, he's a better player. Give me a break. Give me a break. And Mahomes is going to go put on a show this weekend.
Well, you also have to factor in that Mahomes has had one good quarter in 8 quarters in the Super Bowl.
That's okay, but it's not true. It's flatly not true. Watch the Bucks game again, Dan. He was brilliant. And passes are being dropped. Go to my...
It doesn't... No, we don't do that. You don't go, oh, you know what? The receivers... Do you do this for any other quarterback? When you go back in time, you go, boy, man, they dropped all of those passes, or he would have, won that game. You're doing it for Mahomes. I mean, you're blurring the lines here. That's his team. They dropped the ball. What happens, you're trying to make it seem like Mahomes was unbelievable. He had 2 touchdowns, 4 picks.
I'm not.
And 2 Super Bowls.
I'm not blurring any lines.
His quarterback rating is 64 in the Super Bowl. He's not been great. Now, you can say his teammates didn't help him. Well, we can say that about a lot of quarterbacks in the Super Bowl.
What's your favorite Tom Brady? What do you think is the most impressive Tom Brady Super Bowl, Dan? What's the best one? There's only one
There's
answer.
So many.
No, the 28-3 comeback is the answer. That's what everyone would go to. He threw a pick 6 in that game to get down 28-3 and then led the comeback. The idea that we're going to act like coming back from down double digits with 6 minutes left against the league's best defense and then winning by double digits is not a wildly impressive Super Bowl performance against the Niners is nonsense. Now, you want to say he underachieved against the Bucks? I think the film disagrees. But despite that passer rating that you just mentioned in the Super Bowl, the guy's played in 12 playoff games, has the all-time best passer rating in the postseason, the all-time best touchdown interception ratio in the postseason, the all-time best yards per game in the postseason. So what I'm here is telling you is he is an all-time legendary postseason performer, and now people are doubting what he's going to look like on Sunday.
He's in his own category. I asked the question earlier this week, quarterback you want to start your team with, we took Mahomes out of the conversation. He's in his own conversation. Yes, but I'm just saying he's not everything that you're saying he is. He's not. In the Super Bowl, he's not. And we are welcoming somebody to come in to the conversation. That's what Burrow is about. Can we have somebody in the conversation, because nobody is in the conversation. Josh Allen's not. Justin Herbert's not. Jalen Hurts isn't. Is Joe Burrow at least going to make this a fun conversation?
And I'm fine with that. I'll be very quick here.
Okay.
I have all year said Joe Burrow's the second best quarterback in football. What frustrates me is the lack of consistency from my media colleagues who all year long said Allen and Mahomes were neck and neck and were putting Burrow down with Herbert, down in a different tier. And then
why don't you name names? Call out who did this.
Literally everyone but me. Literally everyone in the media but Nick Wright. That's the names.
Okay. We're on the same page with LeBron, with what LeBron is doing. I'm amazed that this isn't bigger. I know that it's going for Kareem's record, but nobody has had this. Nobody's had a season like this. And LeBron is doing this on a nightly basis, and he has to because Anthony Davis isn't there. I don't know. I'm trying to figure this out. Why?
I can tell you it's the protection of Michael Jordan. I mean, that's all it is. You can't. This was a record, Dan. In the last 55 years, here are the people who have held the title of NBA's all-time leading scorer. I'll give you the full list. It'll take a while. Wilt Chamberlain, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Yeah.
That's the list.
Yeah.
Kareem set this record, or broke the record, before LeBron was born. It was considered unbreakable up to 6 years ago. People thought it couldn't be broken. LeBron's going to break it by 4,000 points, 5,000 points, 6,000 points. And the reason I say it's the protection of Jordan is when the timeline goes long enough, folks are going to be like, okay, so tell me the argument, explain to me why Jordan's the greatest. They're going to be like, oh, winner. It's like, oh, he had the most championships. No. Kareem had the same. Oh, but it's tied for the most. No, actually, there's a guy named Bill Russell who had 11. Okay, well, that can't be it then. He played like he did it the longest. No, it's not even close, actually. Oh, I know what it is. He's the greatest scorer ever. Well, kind of. But he's actually fifth on the all-time list and 10,000 points behind the all-time scorer. Right now, this moment, Dan, there is a bigger gap in points between LeBron and Jordan than Jordan and Paul Pierce. By the end of the season, the gap between LeBron and Jordan will be the same as the gap between Jordan and your guy, Reggie Miller. So it's like, so then the argument just has to be, well, I get it. Was he playing during the toughest era of basketball? Was he just going through super team after super team? It's like, well, no. In the East, he had to go through a Knicks team that had one Hall of Famer to go to the finals against a Blazers team that had one Hall of Famer, and then the Suns that had one Hall of Famer, and then the Sonics that had one Hall of. So it's like, then wait, why is he the universally accepted GOAT? It's like, oh, I don't know, man, but people have always said it, so I guess you had to be there. And so the LeBron's going to be scoring 30 a night when he breaks this record. That's unfathomable. It's totally unfathomable that he's still one of the 8 best players in the league.
But, people might look at career average. Jordan's at 30, LeBron's at 27, if that factors in. But I'm with you on all of this. LeBron's going to end up in the top 5 in assists when it's all. Yeah. So the greatest scorer is not a great shooter, and he's going to be one of the top 5 passers in the history of the game. And it's not compiling. This isn't, I'm going to average 21 a game and, 6 assists and 5 rebounds.
Well, that's the other important part of it. Maybe at some point he'll get there. But the fact that he's breaking the record when he's arguably playing at a first-team All-NBA level, I'll tell you this. LeBron's got that ad campaign, the LeBron versus Father Time.
Yeah.
If you watched the first 10 games of the year, I was like, oh boy, I think Father Time finally caught up. Like, it looked like LeBron had shifted from where he was last year to like a fringe top 25 guy. Then he would miss 2 weeks, came back. Since he turned 38, Dan, he's averaging 36 points per game. Like, he has been, since after those opening 2 weeks of the season, he's been as good as anybody in the league. And so there's no context for it.
But
there's no precedent.
I wonder if people look at Jordan and LeBron the way we do Jim Brown versus Emmitt Smith. That the yards aren't close. Jim Brown was something we had never seen before. Emmett came along and dominated as far as, career rushing yards.
Here's where I would say I think that's a really good comp to a degree. Where I would disagree is if we just went Jim Brown, if you put Jim Brown and Emmitt Smith's careers together and said pick out the 5 best singular seasons, they'd all be Jim Brown seasons, right? You know what I mean? If you did that with Jordan and LeBron, it'd go back and forth, back and forth. It's not like maybe you can say Jordan's peak, if you want to argue it, was a touch higher. I don't know. The year LeBron had a 27-game winning streak and almost won Defensive Player of the Year and was 1 vote away from unanimous MVP was pretty good. But you want to say Jordan's peak was a touch higher, so be it. But it's not substantial.
Yeah.
And the best seasons for each of those guys can go tit for tat. And ultimately, people are going to be like, well, who was the better, let's go age by age. Like, who was the better teenager? Well, Jordan was averaging 13 a game for Carolina, and LeBron was making all-star teams. I guess that's LeBron. Who was the better 38-year-old? Well, Jordan was averaging 20 a game for a below 500 Wizards team. LeBron is in the, first-team All-NBA discussion. So, yeah, if we want to say late 20s to 31, Jordan was better. It's close, but fine. But the body of work is so overwhelming, it's not going to be an argument.
Yeah, people won't entertain that. And that's where I have a problem with it. What is wrong with consistency, durability, the totality of this? Why can't he be the greatest player of all time? Just because you have your memories and you're growing up with Michael Jordan and we all fell in love with everything, it feels like, we're very begrudgingly acknowledging the greatness of LeBron. We're seeing the greatest player of all time, in my opinion, right in front of us, but we're not going to acknowledge it. Maybe after the fact. And it's almost...
who won't... Sorry, also won't acknowledge it? His god dog GM, who comes out and gives a quote. He's like, I'm not going to make a trade unless, it makes us a championship contender. It's like, all right, buddy. So LeBron's playing at a better level than you could have hoped. Anthony Davis is now back. He was playing the best of his career. Russ is actually working in the role he's in,
Sure.
And the coach has been good. So all those things happened. That your best case scenario, check. And you don't think the team's already a contender. Well, why? Because the roster's terrible? Whose job is that, Pelinka? I forget. Oh, the guy who built the team says the team's not good enough to improve. It's maddening. It's utterly maddening.
See, Jordan is Neil Armstrong. That's the problem. He's second. LeBron is second on the moon.
Oh, that's better than the Jim Brown, Emmitt Smith thing. I don't know which one of your guys fed you that line, but that's vintage Dan Patrick.
Yeah.
I mean, that is when you really had your fastball.
Don't be hating.
That is great.
Don't be hating. Don't be hating.
But here's
what I'm doing right now is spitting. Okay.
Okay. Now on that note, here's the question I would ask people.
All right.
Why is Jay-Z the greatest rapper ever? Because he is. And it's because the body of work is so overwhelming, it's impossible to deny. Now, if you want to argue Tupac's best album is better than Jay-Z's, so be it. But he didn't do it long enough. And the thing with Jordan is, Jordan quit twice. He could have. It's not like, nobody played that long. No, Kareem did. Karl Malone did. Those guys played that long. Jordan left 5 seasons on the table. That was his choice. So be it. But we can't then be like, well, he would have won all these other titles. We don't know that. What we do know is, as far as who has created the most winning basketball, it's one guy in league history by a mile. And it's also why I think Kareem's the second best player ever. Top 3 is not bad, Jordan.
If you include college in there, Kareem's...
Well, if you include college, Kareem's got the greatest basketball life ever.
Yes.
If you include college, he's the greatest basketball life ever.
I like what your wife has done with the house there.
Why do you think it's not me? You don't think I'm the one designing this stuff?
You can't even cut your hair. I mean, come on. You got no shot. You're better.
No shot.
You're better than that. Have
no
fun.
shot. Let's have. Yeah, thank you. Let's have dinner soon. Are you going to be? I'll see you at the Super Bowl.
Yeah. But have fun with Eric Mangini and his wife. I'm sure it'll be riveting conversation. Breaking down.
I don't appreciate that tone. I don't appreciate that tone at all. That's my dear friend, Dan. Don't you do that. I'll talk to you later.
Tell your wife I said hello.
I won't actually be doing that at all. I won't even tell her that I'm on this show today. See you later.
All right, buddy. That's Nick Wright. Back after this.